Scottie Scheffler on top of the leaderboard. Now, his wife is pregnant.
Congrats to Scott and his wife.
Yeah, had a wild night about 9 months ago. Scottie Scheffler is saying that if his wife goes into labor, he's prepared to just jet and leave the Masters no matter what. First place, 7 under, day 2, and he's ready to be like, if it happens, I'm out.
Is this their first child?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's
What are you saying, the second one doesn't count?
Yeah, second one's not as
well,
important.
I don't have kids, so I really don't know.
As the firstborn of 5, I could, agree with Monty. It doesn't matter after that.
Yeah, I feel like the first
one.
I honestly, I think the first one is probably why he's saying that's crazy though.
You think my parents cared about my brother, the toilet
They
baby?
definitely didn't care about the fifth
The
one.
same way they cared about me. My brother was raised by wolves.
Yeah, by
they didn't
you.
care about my brother. I'm like, hey, did anyone bathe this kid? My brother, the nose picker, that kid was raised by nobody.
Can I give you the difference,
I was
Monty?
smothered.
I try very hard to make sure my 2 kids, I treat them equal.
Yeah.
But you do have a propensity as a parent to really pay attention to the oldest, because I look back, and this is something little, but you say, little? This is a big one. In my family, I'm one of 3. Do you know that I had braces and my brother and sister didn't?
Yeah, the leg ones, right? You were like Elvis, Forrest Gump?
Yeah, I was like Forrest Gump. No! I had braces, and my brother and sister didn't have perfect teeth, but I think by them, they're like, who cares?
Yeah, that's actually my
like
point.
I feel like
it's
they
not that
gave me more money for college.
your parents love them any less.
No.
It's just they sort of throw caution to the wind, as they say. Like, if he falls, he falls. Or it's just a different level of concern when it comes to the other.
It is their
kid.
first child.
Yes, it is.
It is their first child.
Yeah. Now they're not expecting for a couple weeks, but we all know that there could be healthy babies born weeks ahead of time. Danny G, I know you were on high alert when Brenda was pregnant because we were doing the show, doing a little traveling, and I remember you being like, yo, it could happen at any day.
I made sure we were broadcasting live from Las Vegas.
Yeah. So my thought is,
I have a thought on this as well.
where are you realistic? Where are you old school? I don't even know what that would even mean. Old school means you don't care. My thought is, what would it have to
Old
be?
school means that your dad has an awkward time saying he loves you, and he seems to be a little disconnected, but he cares.
Oh, okay, I get that.
Yeah, and did he have to be there? Not really.
You know what my mom likes to say? Granted, my parents are divorced, but my mom likes to say, your dad, when your sister was born, he was out playing poker with his buddies, and he stopped by the hospital and then went back to play poker. I'm like,
that sounds old school.
My sister is the third born.
That
so maybe.
sounds old school, yeah.
Yeah.
But what would it have to be for you to miss the birth of your first child? Now, I'm a father of 2, and I'll tell you this. There is the joy and the magical moment of like, holy crap, I'm a dad. But if I was in first place at the Masters, listen, I'm a radio host. I feel proud of what I do for a living. But I'm not in the Masters on the leaderboard at number 1. I'm not pitching Game 7 of the World Series. I'm not in the Super Bowl.
Right.
I'm not, in the heavyweight main event at a UFC event. If that so happened to line up with the birth of your first child, aren't there exceptions? And I'm usually the guy that says family first.
You know why?
Monty, I say family
these
first.
are exceptional people, and they're doing exceptional things, and that's what makes it different. I'm not saying they're more important than you, but they're doing once in a lifetime. Like, they hit the life lottery, and you got to I think you got to let them play it out in these moments.
Yeah.
And I think a good wife, and I'm not saying his isn't, but I'm saying a good wife or a good partner, flip it and reverse it, I don't care, would say, no, you do what you got to do. I'll be fine because you're doing this for the family, and we're proud of you. And I think, here's my thought on this. I think dads today just put so much unnecessary pressure on themselves, me being one of them, to be at every event, to be overly compassionate and present. And you know what, man? As a provider, man or woman, like, you got to do what you got to do sometimes, and you can't make every event, but you live with this guilt that you got to be there.
Well, you're also
and you're a bad person if you're not.
You're also trying to make up for previous generations that
That's it.
unprecedented. You're
Yeah,
like,
and
well, I'm
you'll
not gonna be
never
like
hear
that.
the end of it. That's the other part. Like Scott Scheffler is like, you know what? I know I'm in the Masters, but my wife will never let me live it down if I'm not there because of all this unnecessary pressure. It's not fair. You got to let this guy be a man. Absolutely.
As Rocky said,
Or a woman on the flip side, if it was possible.
You're quoting Rocky.
I am quoting Rocky.
Well, if it was a woman, dude, she'd have to be there to have
I'm
a baby.
just saying, like, this is a particular, like, I'm not trying to sound sexist, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying a man also has to support his woman in whatever scenario you want to choose.
Yeah.
But in this scenario, you got to let this dude do what he does. He's a golfer, man.
Well, what does Rocky say to Adrian when she doesn't want him to fight? Yo, Adrian, like, I don't want you to stop being a woman, so don't ask me to stop being a man. It's a
Great line.
And I'm not saying being a man is being at the Masters, but I think we need to remind ourselves that, no offense, if you're Frank who has a truck route, or John that works at the doctor's office, or Rich Davis who has a radio show, we are not at the Masters. We are not scheduled to be, playing Game 7 of the NBA Finals. I think there's exceptions, and I usually do side on family comes first. And I know Covino, a couple years ago, it was good because we got some love about it, but Covino caught a little heat because he was like, you remember getting on the case of Jeff McNeil in the Mets because he took a little bit of a long paternity leave?
Yeah. Yeah, but they twisted my words around.
The
narrative was that I said he didn't have to be there for the birth of his baby. And that's not what I said. I said, get back as soon as you can because the team and the fans want you to be back. I never said he shouldn't be there if he could be there.
You want social media to quote you the right way?
Yeah, because,
Good luck.
I mean, that's not what I said.
Well, I'm just saying.
My point was he had an obligation, yes, to his wife and to his child, and he was there, but he has an obligation to his teammates and to the fans that pay to see him
listen,
play.
buddy.
So I was just saying he shouldn't be away for months at a time.
Listen, buddy. LeBron James said it straight up, and no one blinked an eye because he's LeBron, and no one knows more than LeBron that he puts it all on the court. Remember LeBron said, if I have a conflict and Bronny's got a big game, I'll be there. Saying I will skip a Lakers game if I need to be there for my son, prioritizing being a dad. And when you're LeBron James, you could do that. I just ask you, the Fox Sports Radio Nation, 877-99 on Fox. Let me open up the lines here.
These are once-in-a-lifetime moments. I guess both ways. Golfing in the Masters, being in the lead as we speak, and also being a first-time dad. I could also see not only does Scott Scheffler want to be there for his wife and support and to be there for his future child, he wants to be there because he wants to be there, right? Selfishly. I understand all of that. But, man, I think in this moment, it goes back to the Rocky Balboa quote, actually, Rich.
Yeah. I don't ask you to stop being a woman. Don't ask me to stop being a man.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, it's a magical moment watching your first kid be born. I'd play the audio for you, but all I just keep saying is holy S over and over and over again. Holy. Like, listen, I was never on the leaderboard at the Masters, but I will say this. Covino and I was saying, let me give you a little old school story, buddy boy. So this is when Covino and I were working at ESPN. We were doing a late night TV show every night on ESPN2.
The year was 2018. Was it?
2017.
2017.
And they said, hey, guys, we're signing you on to do this new show, but we're doing all the demos, all the auditions for some of your co-hosts and other talent on the show. On May 17th, we're flying everyone in. I'm like, okay, boss. Then I turned to Covino and I said, that's my wife's due date. And he's like, well, what are we going to do? I was like, well, we're in the same city.
I looked at it like we got things to do date.
So I was saying, my wife gave birth to our daughter on May 16th. The next morning, I showed up at the TV studio with the hospital bracelet on, did the demos and auditions, went back to the hospital. You got to do what you got to do as a provider, as a man, as a woman. You don't want to miss those family moments. I do wonder if it matters if Scottie Scheffler was like 28th on the leaderboard. He's number one right now.
Yeah, I do think that matters.
Like, do you think his future kid?
Absolutely think that matters.
His
if you're
future
out
kid.
of it, or even if you're like, I would say even if you were a long shot, that makes a difference, right? Like, he's in first place. There's no way he could leave. I'm sorry.
Let me ask you, Covino, and Danny G and Bonsi.
I think his future kid would understand.
That was my question. Do you think, let's say you, Steve Covino, if you found out in the late 70s your dad passed on something awesome because you were going to be born, would you ever be like, wow, why'd you do that, Dad? If his kid in the future finds out, like,
no,
Dad, you left the Masters because I was born, his kid may be mad at him.
Well, then his kid's a weenie.
What do you mean?
That's the truth.
No. His kid might be mad at him.
that he left. Yeah.
Like, Dad, I know my birth was important, but you left the Masters?
Exactly. He's doing it for the family. He's doing it for the legacy, for his children. It's not just a selfish move. It's for everybody involved here. So I think it's also selfless to miss that opportunity of the birth of your child and go out there and try to win it for your family. That's also a very selfless move. It's not like he doesn't want to be there, right? But that's the pressure you feel, and that's maybe the pressure a woman would put on you. And that's also the fear of doing the right thing. For example, like, women don't forget. My ex, and maybe she's my ex for this reason, but she loves to say
I feel like it was leading to
that
this.
she drove herself to the hospital as a way probably to make me look bad, right? Yeah. And that is true, but it was a scheduled C-section. I was with her. She drove, but I was with her in the car.
Context matters.
Yeah, context matters.
Sam, this is a story.
My point is,
broke, and she's like, I gotta drive myself.
It was not the story. So my point in bringing that up is, it was always thrown in my face. Just like if Scott Scheffler ever steps out of line or things get bad, you know what the wife's going to say. So out of fear, he wants to do the right thing. You weren't even there.
Yeah, maybe he didn't marry someone like your ex.
Yeah, but people love to bring up things like that when they can as ammunition.
If he leaves, it's because they've had a conversation and she has said something. You know what I'm saying? Like, I won't forgive you.
Monty, what would you expect Sean to do?
Like,
or
if
what
Sean
would you
was
expect
pregnant,
a man to do?
if Sean was
Sean was
pregnant,
pregnant.
and it was Game 7 of the finals, I would be like, sorry, bye, you're on your own. And I would expect the same from him because I'm never going to be pregnant. So don't
There
worry.
you go.
But I would not expect him to leave. This is huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's an interesting
that
one.
Big. Yeah, I mean, they're both important.
Very important, both. Yes.
They're both important, but like I was just talking to James in Virginia, who you guys will talk to in a few minutes. It is such a magical moment when you're in that room and you hear your kid cry for the first time.
But that's why I'm saying, Danny G, selfless for him to even potentially miss that.
Yeah.
But doesn't know it's also
It's
magical.
not like he wants to miss that.
Put on that green jacket. I bet that's magical. You know what? The phones are all lit. We're going to take your feedback next. It isn't a matter of what do you put first, because family's always first. But if you have an opportunity that is
This is
like,
different.
You're right. This is the life lottery.
Yes. Right.
You won the life lottery. If you're pitching Game 7, if you're in the Super Bowl as a starting quarterback, if you're on the leaderboard #1 at the Masters, what
you're going for the heavyweight title,
do
right?
you do?
I feel like something we've seen in movies.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. People have missed these magical moments for a lot less than that. Like you said, your dad was at the strip club or wherever he was.